Have you ever wondered what would happen if one of the world's poorest and hungriest nations suddenly took a step so bold that it shook the entire world? This is the story of Burkina Faso, a land where thirst and hunger are daily visitors. And in the middle of this harsh reality, a young leader named Ibrahim Traoré rose with a vision no one had ever imagined. He declared, "I am not here just to keep my people alive. I am here to make them soar." And with those words, he launched a project right in the middle of the desert, an idea so impossible that it left the world in shock. The desert of Burkina Faso, a land where for centuries only winds had ruled, a place where a drop of water was as precious as gold, and even a small patch of soil was considered useless. People believed this land would remain barren forever. But Ibrahim Traoré dared to think differently. Where others saw sand as a burden, he saw strength. The beginning was quiet, just a few political allies, a handful of engineers, and small tents scattered across the sand. They worked under the burning sun by day, and at night the silence of the desert echoed with the sound of heavy machinery. Villagers would come closer, watching in disbelief. Nobody understood what was happening. Rumors spread. Some said it was a secret military base. Others whispered it might be a hidden weapons depot. But the truth was known only to Traoré and his closest companions. He carried a secret in his heart, a secret that would change the destiny of the entire nation. Days turned into months, and then, across the endless sandstorms, a long straight line began to emerge. It looked as if someone had drawn a sword across the chest of the desert. But this was no ordinary line. It was a runway cutting through the barren heart of the Sahara, promising to change everything. When the people saw it, they were stunned. Could planes really land here? Or was this just another impossible dream? But Traoré knew. He knew it was more than a dream. It was the first step toward reality. Still, one question echoed everywhere. Why build an airport in a land where people were hungry and thirsty? Why pour resources into a runway when there were no hospitals, no schools, and no proper roads? Traoré answered with words that silenced all doubts. This airport is not just for airplanes. It is for your dreams. Where there is no road, we must build one. For him, this was not just concrete and steel, it was hope. A bridge that would connect Burkina Faso to the rest of the world. At first, people laughed. They mocked him, saying it was madness, just another desert fantasy. But as the days passed, they saw the machines working, the engineers building, and Traoré himself standing under the scorching sun, never leaving the site. And slowly, laughter turned into silence, silence into curiosity, and curiosity into hope. Slowly, suspicion began to fade, and hope started to take its place. Then came the historic moment when the first part of the project was completed, a long, straight runway cutting through the chest of the desert, shining under the sun. Thousands of people came from far and wide to witness it. Women, children, and elders stood in awe, unable to believe that such a thing was even possible. For the first time, they realized that perhaps their leader was not just a man of slogans, but a man of action. Yet this was only the beginning. Ibrahim Traoré had decided that this would not be a small local airstrip. It would become an international hub. He declared, "Where the world sees the weakest nation, I will build the gateway to the world." His dream was that one day this desert would welcome aircraft from across the globe. It was a vision so bold that almost no one dared to believe it. But Traoré worked day and night to turn that impossible vision into reality. The true genius of his plan was hidden. Alongside the airport, secret water projects were underway. Underground tanks, water harvesting systems, and pipelines were quietly being built. Traoré knew that if he only built an airport, it would have limited benefit. But if he revived life around it, then this project could change the destiny of a nation. And then, the long-awaited day finally arrived. A small military plane approached and, for the very first time, landed on the new desert runway. Dust clouds rose, engines roared, and the atmosphere shook with excitement. For the people, this was not merely an aircraft landing. It was the foundation of a new future. When international journalists and observers visited the site, they were stunned. On one side, a scorching desert stretched endlessly, but on the other stood a modern, state-of-the-art airport, complete with air traffic control, towers, and advanced facilities. Everything was astonishingly well organized. How was all this achieved in such a short time, reporters asked. Traoré only smiled and replied, "When the hope of a nation is alive, nothing is impossible." These words became headlines in newspapers around the world. Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traoré were suddenly at the center of global attention. The inauguration of the airport was nothing less than a historic festival. Thousands gathered in a place that was once nothing but silence and emptiness. Drums echoed, chants filled the air, and people celebrated with tears of joy. When the first plane touched the runway, every eye welled with emotion. It wasn't just a landing, it was the fulfillment of dreams. People embraced one another, children clapped with delight, and women raised their hands in prayer. That moment was forever etched into the soul of the nation. The moment became unforgettable. After the airport was built, the fate of the desert region began to change. Small villages that once struggled for water and jobs started moving toward prosperity. New hotels rose from the sands, markets came alive, and roads stretched into the horizon. For the very first time, people living in the desert felt that they too held an important place on the map of the world. Traoré had sparked a chain of progress that would lift Burkina Faso to new heights for decades to come. But it was not an easy journey. During construction, there were countless challenges: sandstorms that halted work, shortages of budget, and heavy political pressure. Yet Traoré never gave up. Often at night, he would sit with the workers in the desert, sharing their hardships, raising their spirits. He would say, "This sand has not come to stop us. It has come to bow beneath our feet." His words became fuel for the laborers, and they worked tirelessly day and night to bring the project to life. After the airport's success, nations from around the world turned their eyes toward Burkina Faso. Investors arrived, companies opened offices, and new flight routes began to connect the once forgotten land to the global stage. For a country that had long been ignored on the world map, this was nothing short of extraordinary. Now people looked at Burkina Faso with fresh respect, and the credit belonged entirely to Ibrahim Traoré. The story of the airport was not merely one of construction and progress, but of courage and vision. It was proof that when a leader dares to dream and the people unite to bring that dream alive, nothing is impossible. Traoré had proven that leadership is not about giving orders. It is about showing the path and walking it together. That is why, even today, many do not see him as just a leader, but as a guide, almost a savior. And when you stand at that airport today, as the desert winds brush against your face, you can't help but remember the time when this place was nothing but barren land. You wonder how the courage of a single man transformed an entire land. This airport is not just a building, it is a symbol that when dreams are born from pure intention and unwavering resolve, even the sands of the desert can grow roots of hope. Thus, Ibrahim Traoré's story leaves us with a timeless lesson. No matter how harsh the circumstances, if the will is firm and the vision is clear, then not even the desert can stand in the way.